One of the most important regular maintenance items to do on a chainsaw is to keep the chain sharp. A sharp chain leads to increased cutting performance, gives you longer life on your bar and chain, it'll reduce the vibration in your chainsaw, and it will increase the safety of your chainsaw. Keeping the chain sharp is a very simple thing to do with some simple filing techniques that we'll go over here. It's important whenever you're working with a chain to protect your hands with gloves and to wear safety glasses. When filing a chain, it's very convenient to have the saw firmly mounted so that you can work with both hands. One simple way to do that is to use a filing vise, a simple device that can be pounded into a stump or a piece of wood. The bar can then be locked in place so that your hands are free to work and that the chain will freely rotate. That's the easiest way to file the chain. Chains come in many different sizes and styles. It's very important to match the size with your filing equipment so that you have the correct combination. Most of the information can be found on your bar. It's also recommended that you keep any original packaging that you get your chain in so that you know exactly what size and style that you have. The Husqvarna filing guide has the size listed on it and also the types of chain that it will work with. The Husqvarna filing kit also lists the size of chain and will list the models and the types of chains that it will work with, and it includes all of the equipment needed to properly file your chain. Once you've got the proper filing equipment to match your chain, you're ready to begin filing. Properly filing a chain involves maintaining all of the proper angles on the chain tooth. The parts of the chain tooth include the point, the top plate, and the top plate filing angle, the side plate, and the side plate angle. Also the depth gauge, which determines the depth of the chip and how big of a chip you will be cutting. The Husqvarna filing guide maintains all of these angles simply and effectively. The guide has two arrows indicating the direction of the chain. Also, the higher gate is always to the back of the chain. Simply put the guide over the chassis of the chain, and by simply keeping the file on both rollers and parallel to the two sides of the guide, you will maintain the correct angles on the tooth. To file, you simply, with a forward stroke and very smooth actions, file the chain. It is important that you are filing back toward the saw head and not down toward the bar. So you want to keep your file and your thumb rotated back toward the saw power head. Smooth strokes, and on the return stroke you want to simply lift slightly away from the tooth and return, and then engage the tooth again and file. And you simply move on to the next tooth. You are always going to skip a tooth, as there are right-hand cutters and left-hand cutters, so you'll file all of one side first. In this case, I'm filing the right-hand cutters. A few strokes is all that is necessary to maintain a sharp chain on each tooth. However, if a tooth becomes damaged, or several teeth become damaged, some extra strokes will be needed on those teeth. On a damaged tooth, you simply want to continue filing until the point on the top plate looks like a brand new chain. When all of the chain is filed on one side and sharp, you simply want to rotate the file guide to the left-hand cutters and file in the same manner, always remembering to file toward the point of the tooth. Once you've sharpened the teeth, it's important to maintain and check the depth gauge. The depth gauge determines how big of a chip you're going to take. Properly maintained depth gauge will assure a straighter cut, less vibration, and better performance out of your cutting chain. The Husqvarna depth gauge has two settings, hard and soft. The soft setting allows for a little more aggressive and a little higher performance cut. Simply using the slot on the plate, put it over the chassis of the chain and tilt back until it rests on the tooth of the saw chain, exposing the depth gauge through this hole. Taking a flat file, go across the plate and file the depth gauge down to the level of the plate. It's important to file in the same direction that you used with your round file. As before, file every tooth on that side of the chain, putting the depth gauge down to the level of the plate. Once you've finished filing all the depth gauges on one side of the chain, you simply rotate to the other side of the chain, and again filing in the same direction that you used the round file, you file the depth gauges on that side of the chain. The depth gauge may not need maintenance every time you file the teeth, but you can simply check it with the depth gauge tool. Once all the depth gauges on that side of the chain are filed, you have finished filing your chain and now are ready to go back to cutting. So with a few simple tools and a little bit of time and extra care, you can keep your chainsaw running at top performance, cutting straighter, cutting faster, with less vibration, and being safer.